Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'll be going over token-based authentication in Django using Firebase. So if you have a front-end application built, let's say in React or Angular, and you're using Firebase for authentication instead of the Django authentication system, and you want your front-end to communicate with your backend, one issue you may have is identifying who's currently signed in. So to solve this issue, Firebase ID tokens provide a great way for your backend to identify who's currently signed in. So for this tutorial, I'll assume you're already familiar with Django and setting up Firebase and Firebase authentication. If not, you can check out one of my videos where I go over setting up Google Firebase authentication for a React application. So this is the React application that I've set up. And basically what you do here is just you sign in. And then after signing in, you're basically directed to this home screen where I'm supposed to get data from my Django backend. And I have a logout button here that takes me back to my sign-in screen. So looking at the code for this application, what I have here is just two screens, so home screen and sign-in screen. And basically, I'm listening for any state changes or user authentication changes in my Firebase. And if the user is signed in, then I just set the signed in state to true, which brings in my home screen. And then if the user is signed out, then I set signed in to false, which then returns the user back to the sign-in screen. And then going into my home screen, what I have here is just the get data button and the logout button, which just calls authentication.signout. And that's all there is to my front end. And then for my backend, what I've got here, so I'm on dark mode here. I've set up one class here called cars. And then I've just added 5 cars to this model. And here I've just got like Renault Sandero, BMW X4, VW Polo, and so on. So what I want to do is I want to create a view where I retrieve all this data and bring it back to my front end when I click the get data button. Yeah, so when I click the get data button, I want to return all this data back to my front end. But what I should do first is check whether this user here on this application is actually signed in. So to do that, let's first create our view. To implement the get data view in my Django application, I'll just switch to my Django code here in VS Code. So I'll head over to views. And then I'll go ahead and import the cars model. So from dot models import car. And then I'll go ahead and create a view called get cars. And we'll pass along the request. And then here I'll just say cars equals to car dot objects dot, let's say, all. And then I'll also import JSON response. So I'll say Django.http import JSON response. So this will just allow me to return my data as a JSON object. And then I'll also just need to serialize the cars here. So I'll also call Django, I'll say from Django.core.serializers import serialize. And then here I'll just say return. So I'll just say JSON response, and then I'll say data, and we'll call serialize. So I want it in JSON format. That's the first parameter you'll have to pass. And then I'll be passing cars. Okay, maybe let's clean this up a bit. Say response object. Go ahead and just remove that. say equals. And then I'll place that there instead. Okay. And then in my URLs, so I'll first go into the main urls.py file, and then here I'll also import include. Then I'll say path, say get data, I guess. Then we'll say include cars.urls. And then in my cars folder here, I'll go ahead and create my URLs file. Then I'll just go ahead and copy this. I'll remove this first line. And I don't need the includes here. Okay, we'll just keep that blank. And then I'll go ahead and import my view. So from views import, what do we have here? Get cars. And then we'll just have that there. So let me go ahead and try this out in my browser. So if I just go on my Django and say get data, let's just restart this. Okay, and then reload. Okay, there we go. So I'm getting all my cars returned. So I think that was just a restart issue. Cool. Now, if I try and call that from my React application here, let me first sign in here. Okay, so let me switch to my React application. And I'll share this code in the description as well. I'll provide the link for you guys. So in my home screen, let me head over there. I'll add a one-click event on my button. And I'll call it get data. Say get data. So I'll just say fetch. And then I'll just call this URL here. Say get data. So this will be the response, and then we'll just convert that to JSON. Then let me console log the response here. Okay, so let me pull up my inspect element. So if I click get data, we should be getting a cause issue saying the request has been blocked by cause policy and so on. So to fix that, we'll just need to install Django cause headers in our Django application. So I'll go ahead and copy that and switch over to my Django app and then install that. And then just follow the steps here to sort this out. So we'll add this line to our installed apps. Go into my settings, installed apps. And then we'll also need, I think it's this line here, course middleware. And it says here it should come just above common middleware, I think. So let's look for common middleware, just add it above that. And then one other thing we need to add as well, if we just head back here, we'll need to copy this line here, which says cause allow origins, which will basically allow requests from any origin. For the purpose of this tutorial, this is fine. Then we'll just set that to true. Then let's just go ahead and run our backend. Okay, and then now if I head back to my React application, and then click get data, then I'm getting all the car models being returned. Now, obviously, the issue here is that our backend can't determine whether the user is actually signed in or not, and whether they're a valid user. So basically, anyone with access to our endpoint can make calls. Now, the first thing we need to do here, if we just head back to our home screen, what I need to do is get my Firebase token. So in my get data method, I'll just call authentication dot on earth state, then we'll just say user, then if user is signed in, just check, then here we'll just get the token. So to get the token, we'll just say, let's first create a variable called token and say await user dot get ID token. Then this will require us to add an async here. Then we'll just have our call in here as well. And then we'll just need to add a header, call headers, and then we'll create an authorization header in this case where we'll pass along our token. So we'll say authorization. And here we'll say bearer, and then we'll pass along our token. Okay, so for this token, if I just console log this, right, so if I head to my, what's the issue here? This async has to come here actually. Okay, that should fix that. Let's just reload. Okay, there we go. So now if I click get data, we get this token back here. So if I go to jwt.io and I just scroll down here, and if I paste all of this in, as you can see here on the right hand side, we have all the information relating to this user. So we have the name, the surname, and the user ID as well, and email and everything basically. So if we pass this token to our backend, it can actually decode all of this and get the user data, and it can also check actually to verify this token to see if the user is actually on signed in. So going back to our front end code here, we can remove this console.log line. And then in our backend, what we'll do is head over to our views.py. The first thing we'll need to do here is head over to the Firebase website to get Firebase admin installed in our backend. So we'll just search Firebase admin. Then we'll head over here to this Firebase website. And if you scroll all the way down, we should get our code to install this. So we'll go back to our backend, then just install that. Okay, and then while that is installing, we'll just head back to our views.py, and then in here, we'll import credentials and auth. So we'll say from Firebase admin, import credentials, and then we'll also need to import auth. Now, for our credentials in our backend, what we'll need to do is head over to our Firebase project, and then under our settings, so go to project settings, and then service accounts, and then under service accounts, we'll need to generate the Firebase admin SDK. So we'll just go there, and then we'll say generate new private key. And then this private key, it will be downloaded. We'll need to put this in our Django project. So I'll just navigate to my Django project. and I'll just put it in here. I'll rename it to Firebase-config. Okay, so there it is. So it is in my cars folder. I want this in my base folder actually, so I'll just move that. So basically this contains our Firebase, details, just like how we would set this up in our backend, in our front end applications. I'll just close that. So next thing, I'll need to just head over to my settings in my backend. And then in here, maybe somewhere down here, I'll just create a path to my Firebase config file. So I'll say Firebase underscore config equals os.path.join. Then this will I'll call my base directory. Just import os here as well. So os.path.join, so my base directory, and then I'll just copy the name of my file here. And paste it in there. Okay. And then in my views.py, I'll then just initialize my files. Yes, I'll say create, or Firebase credentials rather, say Firebase create equals to, I'll call credentials dot certificate, and then I'll just need to import my settings to refer to the file that I've just created. So I'll just say from Django.conf import settings. So then here I'll just say settings dot the name of my path is Firebase config. I'll just copy that. Okay, there we go. And then I'll create another variable called Firebase underscore app, which equals to Firebase admin dot initialize app, and then I'll just pass my credentials in. Okay, there we go. Let me just run my, so Firebase admin has been installed. Let me just run my application. So in here, what we need to do is firstly get the token. So we'll say, we'll first create a variable, let's call it authorization. So authorization header, and then to get the headers in Django, we'll just call request.meta.get, and then in here we'll pass http underscore authorization. Okay, and basically this should return, let me just switch here. This should return this bearer.token, so I can actually maybe, let me print that. So if I print this, let me go to my application. So this is my Django terminal running here. So if I click get data, so it's getting this whole bearer token here, including the text bearer. So we'll just need to remove that bearer text. To do that, we'll just maybe call this again. We'll say authorization header dot, let's rename this to token. So we just need the token, so we'll say replace. And what do we want to remove here? I want to remove the text bearer along with the space. So it'll be bearer and the space. Okay, and we just need it to be blank, and then this will just return the token. So we can go ahead and print that again. Click save, back to my application, get data once more, and then now we're just getting the token, unlike in the previous print method, print out, where we got the text bearer and the token as well. So there we go. So now from here, what I can do is verify the token. Right. So to do that, I'll have a try method. So in this try method, what I'll do is get the decoded token. So here, to get the token, I'll call auth, which I imported up there. So I'll say auth dot verify ID token, and then I'll pass along my token in here. So I'll say token, and then if it is decoded, what it should return are all the details that I displayed here in the JSON Web Token. So to get the user ID, for example, we'll just say Firebase user ID will be decoded token, and then in this case it will just be user ID. Okay, and basically here, if you had a user object or user class in your application, you could then use this Firebase user ID to get details of that user. Basically what we're saying here, if we're able to decode the token, meaning the token is valid and this is a very valid user that's signed in, then we can return all the data basically. This we don't need actually, just remove that. And then I'll just put this underneath there. And if the user, basically, if we're not able to decode or verify the user, then we'll just say return. We can also just return another JSON object here, say data, and then maybe you can have a message that says user token is invalid. Okay, so let's go ahead and try. So here it should return the same data back to us. So we're still getting the data. And then if I maybe try to change the token, for example, let's see. Let me just head back to my home screen. So if I try to change this token and maybe add something random, and then I click get data, we're getting this user token is invalid. So yeah, to ensure that the token is actually valid, you can just verify it using the steps that I've highlighted here. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching.